Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. This is FiveXFive and I'm Simo. If you haven't already, grab your fave bevy, a seat, and let's get into it. I'm back to talk about Ahsoka. Ahsoka is coming into its last 2 episodes. So if you haven't been watching it so far, get caught up. The show has been great from start to, well, now. If you're a Star Wars fan, you can't miss this show. So this show opens with Huyang and Ahsoka in the belly of a whale, basically, on their trip to Perdia. And Ahsoka catches Huyang up on some details he missed, mainly that Sabine chose to go with the enemy. I like that Huyang, being the cold, emotionless robot, is kind of the voice of reason. Instead of just assuming the absolute worst, he's the one saying, hey, maybe this was the only choice Sabine had or felt she had. I like that Ahsoka acknowledges they basically threw Sabine into the deep end without swimming lessons, and that it takes a long time to be able to make the type of definitive decision that Sabine was forced to make in that moment. And I think that kind of says a lot about Ahsoka as like a mature character, and it kind of is a reflection on her own personal experiences going through the experience of being thrown in at an early age when she wasn't ready herself. So she seems to have a little bit of empathy for this. So in that regard, she really is the perfect master for Sabine, the same way Anakin was the perfect master for her. She needed a master that had her singular determination, and Sabine needs a master that has compassion and understanding and patience. And it's funny, this is just like a single line in the conversation, but it actually really delivers a lot of, I think, valuable direction in terms of the character development and where these characters are going. It doesn't reveal much about the narrative, but it really tells you the direction the characters are going, I think, from a character development perspective. And now that we've spent a whole episode in the world between worlds, or Ahsoka's head, or the Force, depending on what you believe, we're back to being the Sabine show. I joke, sort of. I love that they confirmed some of the fan theories that Perdia was the homeworld of the Night Sisters, which makes a lot of sense because they did some retconning in there and whatever. It kind of didn't really make sense. It was always very mushed together, trying to explain how Darth Maul's species came from this world while the Night Sisters also did. And obviously they don't look anything like each other. And it was just very duct taped together. And adding this in, the element that the Night Sisters are at least some level of immigrant or nomadic culture and isn't native to the world, and that they have a homeworld in another galaxy that they've left to come here from, I think adds a lot of depth to the lore of these characters. And it's just a cool, although sad, fact that the Purgles go to Perdia at the end of their lifespan. A lot of animals do that, and it made perfect sense that they would do something like that for Purgles, which just gives them even more depth. Even though they're just animals, they have their own backstory. That's pretty cool. And we finally find out who Morgan has been communing with or communicating with. I guess both are accurate. Of course, a lot of people thought she was communicating with Thrawn, and well, she might have been to some extent. It's more likely she was communicating with the Night Sisters from her original homeworld in Perdia, the Great Mothers. That was a really cool reveal. Didn't expect that. Really loved that. But it's interesting because we're not seeing a giant culture. I mean, they've set this world up to be the original homeworld and empire of the Night Sisters, but there's only 3 Great Mothers left, and where's the rest of their culture? And what happened to them? I think those are the important questions to ask. And Claudia Black, she's one of the Great Mothers. Who doesn't love Erin Soon from Farscape? She's very cool. My childhood. And I mean, the Night Sisters are so much more interesting than Thrawn, at least from my perspective. I know Thrawn has a huge cult following from the original Timothy Zahn novels that popped up during the vacuum of Star Wars that we had. And he was really well welcomed when he finally appeared in canon in Rebels. But I find the Night Sisters far more interesting and compelling than Thrawn. I hope they're the real antagonists of the show rather than Thrawn. I mean, they have that line, the threat of destiny demands it. Really? So there's a higher power motivating them? Tell me more. I'm interested. Will it be like Clone Wars where they're just stirring the galactic pot? Do they have a larger purpose? I'm really curious about Shin Hati so far, but I'm really disappointed. All of her dialogue is there to further Baylan Skoll's character development. None of it develops her as a character. She's very two-dimensional, very flat. She's just this brooding, like, bad guy in the background. She's like a beefed up feminist version of Darth Maul. I don't think the Star Wars universe needs characters like that. I feel like it should be done with characters like that at this point. They should have depth. So by now, I would have liked to see some sort of direction. She has to be more than than just a bootlicker, right? We'll see. On the other hand, Baylan has gravitas. All of his scenes develop him as a character and give you kind of a little bit of insight into who he is, where he came from. Everything anyone says to him turns into some like lore dump for him practically. Baylan is just another trauma survivor. He's another victim of Order 66 and the Purge. That's what shook him. Obviously, I mean, that makes perfect sense, but instead of dealing with any of that, he goes and follows his faith in the Jedi and his teachings he spent his life dedicating himself to has been shaken. And everything he's done since then is just driven by his obsession to not feel weak or be perceived as weak or a victim ever again, the way a lot of trauma survivors are driven. It's pretty normal. So what is Baylan looking for? Is he looking for the world between worlds, or is he looking for something else? I have a feeling he's looking for something bigger than the world between worlds. What are the Night Sisters running away from? What's led to the collapse of the Night Sisters' homeworld? What are they fleeing from? I think that is what Baylan is actually ultimately looking for. Baylan's going to be trying to tap into whatever it is the Night Sisters are running away from. I'm hoping it's going to be something very like lore heavy and connected to the origin of the Jedi and the Sith and the Night Sisters and the Force, of course. So maybe it'll be like a Force being or Force entity. Maybe we'll actually meet the father, the daughter, and the son. I don't know. This could go so many different ways. Again, we're in uncharted territory, so who knows? Although, if it is all about the world between worlds, it does make sense that the cosmic force would appear to Ahsoka and connect with her and kind of try to size her up and decide whether or not she has what it takes to deal with what's coming. So Thrawn had this amazing intro, very intimidating, very compelling. You could argue it was even more imposing than the original trilogy's entrance for the Emperor and Vader themselves. But I'm still not convinced. I don't know. I'm not convinced that an Admiral in the Empire is all that more compelling and all that more dangerous and all that more of a threat than the Empire or Vader. It just doesn't make sense to me. This guy's basically a lieutenant. I mean, I know in rank he's an Admiral, but he's basically a hench. So he's a really good hench, but he's still a hench. And let's face it, he lost a few years ago. He's been in exile because a single rebel cell defeated him. So why is this guy such a threat to everyone? I'm not sold on that. I'm not sold on the show showing us that this guy is such a threat. And we're supposed to believe he's a threat because he's this super genius. But the problem with writing super geniuses is that the writer writing them has to be as smart as the character. If they're not, it's just, you're just telling us the guy's a genius, but there's no real genius level plan that's an average IQ writer is going to be able to come up with. So what's the genius level plan that this genius level character has got that we're all supposed to be so afraid of? I don't know. I'm stuck. I'm not seeing it. At least so far, his intelligence hasn't been shown to be that formidable or formidable enough to deserve his reputation. I do like that Thrawn calls out Sabine's gambling the safety of the galaxy for the life of her friend and the safety of her friend. I think that was genius. She really should feel bad about it. And of course, he also dubiously thanks her for saving him. That was really good dialogue on their part, but it still doesn't really excuse like the other decisions he's made. And I love that line, "I shall once again need your help, great mothers." What does he mean by that, once again? My money is on the stormtroopers. Those stormtroopers he has, they're all dead. They're using the Japanese art of reconstructing damaged pottery using gold, and they've also been bound with red wrappings like a mummy, like an undead mummy. All of these things combined, they're an undead army, and the cargo that they're loading into the ship from the catacombs is more undead army. Those things look like Star Wars caskets. They're people-sized, and I'm pretty sure that's just more army waiting to be deployed. Who is Enoch? Does he matter? Is he anyone of significance? Oh god, it must be Ezra! Just kidding. I'm so glad that they didn't introduce Enoch and not resolve the Ezra thread in the same episode, because I don't think I could have taken weeks of like, Enoch is Ezra theories like online. That would have been just really... So that worked out. But who is Enoch? Is he anyone of consequence? That should be interesting. He's got a really cool design. But I mean, he could go the way of the original trilogy's treatment of Boba Fett, and of course the sequel trilogy, Captain Phasma. Really cool character design. No character development. Something tells me he's not going to get too much character development in the next 2 episodes, though. The crab aliens, oh wow, they were so perfect. The first thing I thought of was that episode of Clone Wars where they go to that planet, and when they first arrive, they meet the indigenous species, and they're like this really cute, short, little, very bubbly alien species.
Great, it's gonna be another one of those planets.
That's the first thing I thought of when I saw this. But the puppeteering on these guys was amazing. Top notch. It was so nice to see them like physically created and puppeteered though too. At first I was like, are they CGI? But then I realized based on the way they were being moved that they were in fact, I think they were amazing. They were so charming. And honorable mention to our best boy Howler. The visual effects were done really well and he was really cute. And haven't we all done that thing where we blame our pets and then send them away and they come back to us? It's very cute. We were all feeling that. We were all feeling that moment from both sides of that exchange, I think. I have to call out Sabine's finding Ezra here. Yes, she found Ezra. That's great, but it is really contrived that she has been on Perdia for all of 5 minutes and she found Ezra like that. All she had to do was ride a dog and then she found Ezra. Like realistically in universe time, it looks like she was there for about an afternoon, but that's not really that much better. The guy's been missing for years. Thrawn's been after him for years, but Sabine arrives with no assistance whatsoever. Maybe the Force, probably the Force, okay, and a really good dog. And she finds him in one afternoon. Okay, it's a little contrived. It's Star Wars. I have to let it go, but this was a little frustrating. This, I think, is my biggest nitpick with the episode, with an otherwise awesome episode, just for the record. Okay, last but not least, we finally found Ezra. I cried a little, just a little. It was a really nice moment, but I'm gonna nitpick this one too. First of all, this guy is perfectly cast. He looks like Ezra, except for the blue contacts. Those are gonna be a little bit distracting, I'm not gonna lie, but otherwise, he looks perfect. He looks like how Sabine and Ahsoka look, like torn right out of an animation sequence come to life. What is with that reunion? I would have been like, oh my god, my friend. I'd be hugs, and I've devoted my life and a lot of energy to mourning their loss, and devoted my life to trying to find them, and I even made the ultimate sacrifice of giving up a galaxy to reconnect with my long lost friend. And all I'm going to do is stoically kind of distance myself and be like, hey, good to see you, buddy. And then a small hug? Come on. She's not a Jedi. I needed more emotion. I mean, it makes sense from Ezra's perspective, but Sabine should have been really excited to see him. But I do love that he needed confirmation that their plan, the finale of Rebels, worked out and that they did save the galaxy, because of course, him being in another galaxy and exiled, he'd have no way to know the outcome. So that all makes perfect sense. But Sabine kind of glosses over it. She's like, yeah, it all worked out. Nothing about hey, we actually defeated the whole Empire and took back the galaxy. We'll catch you up later. Okay, cool. Sure. I guess that's going to be episode 7. That's going to be interesting. I wonder how she's going to cover that. And of course, cover the whole, we're also stranded together, by the way. There's no way home. And how she's going to explain, hey, yeah, I gave up the safety of the galaxy that you sacrificed yourself to secure so that I could come and find you and save you. Ooh, that's going to be awkward. So that's what I thought. What did you think? Let me know what you think in the comments. That's a wrap for now. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe and look out for each other.